All right, this is a different mood than I thought we would be coming to you with, and I've taken some time and cooled off a little bit. I almost did a video last night. I rethought that and thought it was better to take a little bit of time to maybe cool down. What do they say? Cooler heads prevail. Maybe not be so emotional. I've done super emotional videos in the past. I guess there's nothing wrong with them, but a lot of times I end up saying things that I regret. And so sometimes it's better to just cool down a little bit. I want to preface this by saying I already know what all the comments are going to say. I already know the people that are going to disagree. And I'm going to try and answer to some objections at the end of this. And I also want you to know that I fully support Mike Norvell, this staff. I think Florida State is still very much heading in the right direction. But just because you're heading in the right direction doesn't mean there aren't areas for improvement. In anything you do, whether it be a player, whether it be a coach, whether it be parenting, whether it be something at your job, church, school, wherever, there are always rooms or places for improvement. And that's where I think the conversation goes today. I don't think that we should fire the entire staff and look for a new coach. Now, I am very confident with Mike Norvell at the helm. Do I think that Mike Norvell is a top 5 coach in college football? Absolutely. Do I also think there are places that this staff can improve? Absolutely. Do I think there were places that Bobby could improve? Do I think there were places that Jimbo could improve? Absolutely. And so that's the conversation we're having today. I'm not firing anybody. I'm not saying that anybody needs to be moved on from. I do think there are places that this staff can get better, and ultimately that falls on Mike Norvell. So as you know, Florida State had a really rough week with linebacker recruiting. They missed on Rainy Sale on Monday. Distance too much to overcome there. Kid committed to the staff. I felt really good there. We did a pre-record. We knew that he had committed to the staff. We had a pre-record ready to go. Things started to waver a little bit down the stretch, and he ended up committing to Washington for the second time. He spurned you for the second time, committed to Washington. Florida State seems like they'll stay active in that. He's already committed to you a couple of times, said he was going to commit to you a couple of times, and has picked Washington twice. I don't know that you're going to be able to pull him away from Washington. I am okay with the staff continuing to invest there. I would have questions on why you feel the need to recruit literally the farthest linebacker from you. Like, there is not a linebacker that you could theoretically recruit that is a further distance away from Tallahassee in the United States. There's no one in Alaska that we could potentially target. I would wonder why you feel the need to go so far away. I know there are relationships there with Derek Ray, Florida State's general manager, and that makes sense. But the time and effort and energy that it takes to recruit somebody on that side of the country is pretty phenomenal. And he's a good player, number 1 player in the state of Washington. Again, I had questions for quite a while on why that was a major target. Probably just due to the fact that you're not very good at recruiting linebackers. But again, if you're having to go literally as far away from Tallahassee as you can go to pick guys up, that's not a great sign. Gavin Nix, you missed on, who went to Miami. Kid grew up a Florida State fan. That seems to be a curse for the Noles here recently. We need to stop going after kids that grow up Florida State fans. Look at KJ Bolden and others. That, you weren't able to overcome Miami there. Miami had done some negative recruiting, and he even mentioned it in some of his pre-visit interviews, how, the transfer portal, this, that, and the other. I know they're heavy there. Will I get developed? Blah, 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 blah. Florida State wasn't able to combat that, despite the fact that Miami has taken one less portal guy than the Noles over the last 3 years. The entire time that Nix has been in high school, Miami has taken one less portal guy. I don't know if Florida State staff just doesn't realize that or didn't have that to combat the narrative with, or if they just don't even try to combat that narrative, or if they don't do it effectively. But for that to be his big holdup, and that to be why he chooses Miami, when again they've taken one less portal guy than us over the last 3 years, the time that he's been in high school. That's kind of shocking to me. And then you had yesterday, and Tavion Wallace picks Arkansas, a staff that is, their seat is so hot. A lot of people are shocked that their head coach wasn't fired this last year. After Tavion had named you his leader 6 days ago. He publicly did that on May 28th. He did that in January after Junior Day. He did that. He had named you his leader 3 times publicly. And I don't know if complacency sets in. I don't know if, oh, well, he's saying we're his leader outside. And so we don't feel the need to do the digging. But, he changed his commitment date right after his Arkansas visit, actually as he was finishing up his Arkansas visit. And nobody saw that as any kind of a red flag. Everyone was just comfortable, I guess, and didn't really do the digging there. But when you look back, the fact that he changed his commitment date to another, to yesterday, the 3rd, on or right after his Arkansas visit, nobody saw that as a potential problem. And nobody was able to do any digging there. Again, I don't know if we just kind of took it for granted that he was penciled into the class because he had named you as his leader. But Florida State gets fooled again. And I'll tell you this, I think he's known for a while that this was going to be his decision. And when he was talking about you as his leader back there in, 6 days ago, a week ago or so, just Florida State staff not being able to pick up on this. KJ had said that he decided that he was flipping before his Florida State official visit. He had known for 3 weeks. And then you get to his official visit and he went through the entire visit and you didn't pick up on that. You didn't have a way to combat that. And so then kind of the same thing here with Tavion. I think Tavion knew on his official visit, and I'm sure he had a good time. I'm sure he had a lot of fun. It's a paid free vacation. Who doesn't have a good time? But the fact that our staff couldn't pick up on that is disheartening. Where do they go from here at linebacker? I'm sure they stay on Tavion. I don't expect him to sign with Arkansas. I think that their staff ends up getting fired, and I don't think that Pittman is the coach there after they go 3-9 at best, 4-8. Maybe in a dream season. Does he stick around after that? Maybe some relationships matter enough. I doubt it. There's talk around Randy Shannon continuing to recruit there. Again, you've lost him twice. Do you think you can get him the 3rd time? I mean, maybe. I don't have a lot of confidence in the staff. I don't expect them to pull Gavin Nix. Obviously, Pritchard's already committed. There's been talk around TJ Alford. I don't have a lot of confidence in this staff to be able to pull off a flip from Ohio State at this point at the linebacker position. I'd love to be wrong on any of the 3 of those, but I'm out of the camp of thinking that could happen, and I'm into the camp of I'll believe you when you do it, And that's not me trying to be super negative. I don't know what else to say about the linebacking recruiting here. It really felt like you'd land Wallace. It felt like the most sure thing. Now I'll give a little grace. Recruiting is very fickle. Kids are trolls. I think you got played a little bit here. I think you got trolled a little bit here with the fact that the kid kept naming you his leader, knowing what he was going to do. I don't think that this was a decision that he just woke up on Tuesday and made out of nowhere. I think he clearly knew what he was doing, especially when you kind of consider when he changed his commitment date. I think Arkansas did a good job and made a good impact on that visit, and it's clear what his intentions were going to be. To also give some grace to the staff, I mean, UGA and UF lost this battle too. It's not just Florida State that lost it. However, Florida State's linebacker position is much worse than both UGA's and UF's. And so it's frustrating. That's a really bad loss. It felt like you probably weren't. There was no chance you were going to go 3 for 3. It felt like Nix was out, but you thought you had a chance to go 2 for 3 with Randy Shannon and then Wallace. And then when Randy Shannon started to waver, you thought, well, at least we have Wallace. At least Wallace is a done deal. Everyone thought it was Florida State. This is kind of a Wiley in reverse. Georgia thought it was Florida State. Florida thought it was Florida State. Obviously, Florida State felt pretty good. And then he shocks everybody by picking Arkansas, and this seems to happen to Florida State a lot, and is frustrating to see. So who do you blame, right? We'll talk about that in just a moment. I do want to give some love to the mango board. I know that you're not in a good mood right now as you watch this, but I do promise that if you ate a mango right now, you would be in a better mood than you are right now. Speaking of that, the mango board partnered with Inside Out 2. They were at the premiere. They had an official partnership there with that movie. And if you've seen that movie, it is phenomenal. I would recommend you going and checking it out. Have a mango while you do it. That's kind of weird in the theater, but do it anyway. We're all kind of feeling like sadness right now, but Joy will be back eventually. I think Florida State's got good things coming their way. Not all blue, not all dark. We'll get back to some excitement and some more positivity soon. But again, if you need help doing that, mangoes at your next grocery trip, you'll feel a lot better at that point. So I appreciate the Mango Board for their support of not only FSU athletics, but also our channel. I at least can make myself laugh a little bit with the Mango ad read today. So who's to blame? I mean, obviously a lot of people, and in my frustration last night, I mean, there's a lot of frustration with Randy Shannon, and I get it, right? Like he is the point person. He's been the point person for all of these linebacker recruitments and failed linebacker attempts to bring guys in. And so there's obviously going to be some frustration there. He was the point man on the Armando Blunt situation last year where that kid kind of trolled you and left you at the door knocking. Showed up to his house and he wouldn't answer the door. Again, that was a Randy relationship. And so, yeah, there's a lot of frustration there. I'm not going to sit on here and call for Randy to be fired. Do I think that somebody like Ernie Sims might do a better job recruiting? Probably. Sims got let go from UCF, so I don't know that that's like a great fix, but I think Randy Ernie might be a little better recruiting, might close you a little bit better, might get you a TJ Alford because of relationships, but I don't have a lot of confidence there. At the end of the day, though, I think it's to the point now where it has stopped being on Randy. Like it's easy to target Randy. It's easy to make Randy a scapegoat and blame the linebacker recruiting there. But at the end of the day, like we know what Randy is at this point, right? Like he's a good developer. He's a good coach. He's good for the program. He's good for culture. Like he's a good person, I think. But he just can't land a recruit. Like, I think we just know that now. Like that, and we've probably known that for a while. It felt like Florida State had a lot of 4 or 5 star linebackers that they were in on for this cycle. So it was like, all right, well, let's see what happens in 2025 and maybe we'll give him another shot. But at this point, Randy is who he is. And that's not me trying to be mean. Like his track record is terrible landing linebackers. Like I'm not saying you fire him, you don't. But at the end of the day, if Mike Norvell is, I don't want to say okay with, but like if there's no consequence for failing there, or if the standard is not that we need you to go out and win these battles, and if Mike Norvell doesn't care, then you shouldn't be mad at Randy. Randy is who he is at this point. I said this last night to a friend, somewhat joking, but if you give your 2-year-old a cup of milk with no lid on it and you get mad that he spills the milk, well, the first time that's fine. But if you give him another cup of milk with no lid on it and your 2-year-old spills the milk again, then okay, well, yeah, well, you're frustrated, but eventually you got to stop giving the 2-year-old a cup of milk and expecting him not to spill it. Eventually it becomes on you. I've done it before. I have a 2-year-old. I'm the idiot. I get it. But at some point, we have to realize Randy is not going to land these kids. He's just not. And that's not me being a jerk. I think he's a fine person. He does a really good job developing. He is a good developer, a linebacker. He does a good job helping out with the defensive staff as co-DC. But he is not going to land you elite kids. Whether it be him too slow to offer, whether he's too picky on the board, whether it's just not relating to kids, whether it's not having the energy or the effort or the excitement to actually land these recruits, I don't know what the answer is. It's probably some mix of all of those things. But if Mike Norvell is going to continue to trust Randy Shannon to be the closer, I think we're going to end up with the same results. And you have to stop blaming Randy. And I think it falls more on the head coach at that point. I'm not sitting here calling for Mike's job. I'm not sitting here saying I'm not happy with Mike. I know that people are going to say, well, you just went 13-0. How can you be upset? I'm not upset with the direction of the program. We're talking specifically linebacker recruiting. And I don't think it's up to par where it needs to be. And I'm tired. I think I'm done blaming Randy. Randy's an easy scapegoat. Randy's an easy point at and say that it's his fault. I don't think it's Randy's fault. I'll just say that. And that might be a hot take. People might not agree with that. But how many times are you going to give the 2-year-old an open cup of milk and not put a lid on it? How many times are you going to hand the kid? He can't handle it. My 2-year-old cannot drink out of a cup of milk that doesn't have, some kind of lid or straw on it. He just can't. As much as I might want him to. My 6-year-old can. No problem. I know that Alex Atkins can close. I know that Pastor Tan can close. I know that Odell seems like he can close again. I know that. I can hand them a cup of milk. At some point, we got to stop handing Randy the milk. All right. And if we don't, then it's no longer Randy's fault. You had like a 90+% chance to land this kid. Everyone picked Florida State. And somehow the Seminoles could not land him, right? What do we got there? 93%. Everyone thought it was FSU, and somehow Florida State missed that it wasn't. And it's their job. They get paid hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Randy makes a lot of money. Mike makes a lot more to figure that out. It's a group effort. The same way that we give the entire staff credit when they land a guy, it's a group effort when they miss on a guy too. It's not all one guy's fault. It's not all Randy's fault. It's not all Norvell's fault. It's not all Derek Ray's fault. It's not all Fuller's fault or this guy's fault or that guy's fault. It is a group effort at all times. Like, it's not just one person's fault. But it is frustrating. People say, oh, well, linebacker's not a premium position and we don't care. Let me tell you something. I'm so tired of hearing that linebacker's not a premium position, because go look at the linebackers on the teams that were in the playoff last year, and then come back to me and tell me it's not a premium position. Go look at the linebackers that were on Florida State's roster when they won at the highest level. The Derek Brookses and the Marvin Jones and the Telvin Smiths and the Christian. Go look at those teams and tell me that linebacker is not a premium position. There's the argument of, oh, we'll just replace him in the portal later. Good luck. Good luck. People are excited about Sean Murphy. People are excited about Cam Riley. We'll see. We'll see what that looks like this year. I don't know that that's your best option. I hope that Sean Murphy is elite for the Noles. I hope that Cam Riley is really good for the Noles. But I think you're probably going to be looking at Nicholson and Cryer a lot, and then there being a little bit of a drop-off past that. I think Sean Murphy will play some. I think Lundy plays a ton. Yeah, Lundy's on the field all the time. Thankfully, you got him back from Colorado. But yeah, I don't know that you can just easily replace guys in the portal. I love to be wrong there, but you've not seen super elite talents at linebacker jump in the portal in Florida State land them. They did a good job with Bethune. Bethune came over with Randy. There was a previous relationship there. Outside of that, Florida State hasn't been picking up elite talents. There's the argument of, well, he just put 2 in the NFL last year. What are you upset with? Well, I love Kalen DeLoach as much as the next guy, undrafted free agent, and I hope he balls out for my Bucks here in Tampa. But I don't know that. Why isn't Randy able to capitalize on that? Well, why isn't the staff able to capitalize on putting 2 NFL guys 2 linebackers into the league? Again, Bethune, a portal guy that was here for 2 years, and then Kalen. I think Kalen was here for 5 years. And so, yeah, you need to raise the ceiling a little bit. You need to raise the floor in that linebacker room, and it is frustrating to see. Again, not calling for anybody's job. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't get paid $650,000 a year or $8 million a year to try and figure out linebacker recruiting. That is, I make pennies from making YouTube videos that complaining about it. Not any significant money to try and figure out the answers. People say, oh, well, who cares? It's just one recruiter, or it's just, why do you care so much? Well, the staff cares. The staff is working their butts off to try and get these kids. The staff is hosting these kids on official visits. The staff is spending tens of thousands of dollars a year to recruit these kids. And then they're getting trolled. They're getting their hat thrown. They're getting told that they're their public leader 3 times, and then they're going to a team that the coach is not going to be there next year. They're going to a coach that's on a hotter seat than Billy Napier. So the staff cares. So I don't know why you're asking, people will say, why do you care? Well, am I allowed to care if the staff cares? Because though the staff isn't showing you in their actions, they do care about linebacker recruiting. They are trying. They're failing, but they are trying. All this said, and if you made it to this point in the video, you probably know my heart and you know where I'm at. I'm still fully supportive of Mike Norvell. I want Randy Shannon to coach linebackers better than any other linebacker coach in the country this year, because ultimately winning games is what matters. And I am fully on board with supporting the Battles Inn and supporting Seminole boosters and going to games and supporting Mike Norvell. And I will be there 6 or 8 times this year supporting and cheering my brains out. That said, even when you win 23 games in 2 years, there are still places that you can improve. And I don't exactly know how Mike Norvell would answer this, but I think he would tell you that there are places that we can improve and there are places that we can get better. I don't think he would call out a coach specifically. I don't think he'd call out any specific one thing. I don't think he'd tell you, like, TJ, our linebacker recruiting sucks right now. I don't think he'd say that. I think he's a little bit more diplomatic. I think he's a little more professional. But Mike Norvell would look you right in the face and tell you, if we're not getting better at things, we're getting worse. And that's an issue, and we need to get better. And for Mike Norvell, a guy who, requires so much accountability in so many areas of his program, and it requires from his players, and requires it from a lot of his staff members, and requires it from the fan base, and requires it from the admin and everywhere else, it's interesting to me, or it's peculiar to me, why it's not required in this area too. I don't know. I don't have all the ins and outs. I don't have all the answers as to why it's not, but I think Mike Norvell is aware of it, and it's on him if he wants to change it. I do think it's time to stop blaming Randy Shannon, though. It no longer falls on Randy Shannon. I don't think it's his fault. He's an easy scapegoat, as I've said a million times in this, but it's hard for me to continue to blame him. Randy is what he is on the trail at this point. I don't know that he's built for recruiting, especially not in 2024. And so to hold him to a standard or an expectation of being better or getting better is probably unrealistic. And so I don't think it's Randy Shannon's fault. And maybe you didn't expect to tune in today and hear that, but that's my take. So the blame has to go somewhere else, because we keep putting Randy in that position. If you kept shooting threes with Shaq in the early 2000s, if you were Phil Jackson and Shaq kept missing threes, you'd probably eventually stop blaming Shaq for plays being drawn up for him, right? If you set Peter Warrick out there to kick field goals and he kept missing field goals, you'd probably stop blaming Peter Warrick for missing the field goal, and you'd blame Coach Bowden for putting him in there, right? That's my thought. I don't know if that's a good comparison or not. Other than that, I have no idea. Right, I'm at a loss for words. I still cannot believe a kid picked Arkansas over Florida State, Florida and Georgia. It's kind of shocking for them too, I'm sure. Again, their linebacker rooms look a little different than ours, especially their recent recruiting. But that's my thoughts for today. I'm glad I did this today and not last night. I'd have been a lot more reckless last night than I would have now. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Tough conversation. Still fully in support of this team. I've got a positive video coming out tomorrow, and I think we're also getting a commit on July 4th. So fingers crossed that I don't have to do this again for another position group. I'm really high on Florida State's recruiting. All this complaining said, I think you have a top 10 class on 3. But I also think that you're as much as you support, you can also have difficult conversations, and you can kind of point out the areas that you think need improvement. And if people disagree with that, then I don't know what to tell you. Leave it in the comments and let me know you're upset with me. So, all right, appreciate you guys tuning in. I still love you guys. Still love this staff. Still love this team. I wore a green hat with a 4-leaf clover in it for some good luck. Maybe we'll get some good luck on the recruiting trail soon. Thank you guys. Talk to you soon. Go Noles.